I'm Algenon Cash, and welcome back to Eat, Drink, Triad, your number one source here in the Triad region for what is happening in the food and beverage industry. And I'm your host, and I'm so proud and just so honored to be able to bring you these great stories about your favorite restaurants. You know, so often we go to these restaurants, we have date nights, and we celebrate anniversaries and graduation events. But there are real people behind these restaurants, and there's stories and experiences behind those people. And we want to bring you those stories so that you can build a better connection and be more engaged with this important part of your small business community. And so I do have a great guest for us today, Chef Jeff Bacon. But before we get into that, I also want to make sure I let people know we enjoy providing this content. It is absolutely free. We don't ask you to pay anything to subscribe or any kind of fees. But we are supported by sponsors. And so I want to thank Sorrow with Red Donut Shop out of Lexington, who's a sponsor of our Eat, Drink, Triad series. And I want to encourage anyone else who would like to sponsor and actually get behind what we're doing, please reach out to me. You can call or email me directly, and I'd love to talk to you more. We also just launched our YouTube channel. So go to YouTube, subscribe to Eat, Drink, Triad. Of course, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. And we have our video series that we just released. And in the inaugural episode, I had an opportunity to sit down with an old friend, Mr. Nolan, who's the president and CEO of JNS Cafeteria. It's a great conversation. It's only about 11 minutes, but I would encourage you to go listen to that and learn more about the story behind JNS. They've been around 40-something years. Mr. Nolan has probably forgotten more about the restaurant industry than I ever hoped to learn. So I would encourage you to go listen to that commentary. And then the episode, our most previous episode with Chef Don McMillan, you can find Eat, Drink, Triad on Apple, Spotify, Pandora, or wherever you like to download your favorite podcast. So this week, Chef Jeff Bacon, man, I'm so honored and great to have you here with us. How you doing, Chef?
Doing great, Algenon. It's great to be here today.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, and I'm not joking. I know you've got a really busy schedule. You're not like any other chef. You've got a lot going on with your culinary program over at Providence, which is associated with Second Harvest Food Bank. Not to mention, you do a lot of work with just trying to support all the other restaurant owners and operators and up and coming chefs out there. And so you stay really, really busy. Let's kick into the conversation and just talk a little bit about, for the audience that may not know anything about Providence, this may be the first time they've ever heard it. Talk about Providence and your vision around the culinary training that you do through Second Harvest Food Bank.
Sure, I'd love to. It's my favorite thing to talk about. Providence has been around for 15 years, and what it is a culinary training program that focuses on folks that may not be a good fit for traditional culinary education. So it may be that the length is too long for them, or it may be that they have some serious barrier to employment. Maybe they have been formerly incarcerated, they may be homeless, or they may just be laid off from one job field and don't have the skills to jump to another job field. We really don't care what the barrier is, just how we can help people to get retooled and back in the workforce. And one of the major ways we accomplish this education is obviously through the school that's located at Second Harvest Food Bank of Northwest North Carolina, but also through the businesses we run. We run a variety of social enterprise businesses. And what social enterprise means is just it's a business that runs like any other business, but it has a cause behind it. And the revenue generated goes back to support that cause. So our businesses are currently embedded at Tanglewood Park. There's a grill restaurant that we run, a catering company, a historic inn that also has a food function, and a couple other micro businesses that are involved in that whole portfolio. And we use those businesses to give our students experience, to provide them mentoring opportunities, to allow them to get maybe some job experience, get paid, and continue to be mentored while they're breaking into the workforce. So it's one of the unique things about us. And then, of course, we have our hunger relief programs that provide thousands of meals every week to children, seniors, adults all over the food bank service area.
You all have a lot going on, and I for my audience, I can personally attest. I have stayed at the Manor House out at Tanglewood, and that is ran by Providence, and it's one of their social enterprises. And I am telling you, it's a phenomenal experience. You're out in Tanglewood, really great scenic views, so much to do. You know, Chef, I think Tanglewood is probably one of the best kept secrets, and not just Forsyth County, but all of North Carolina. It's just a really cool space and property, and it's hard to believe that that space is actually owned by the county. How did you all get involved out at the Manor House? How did you get involved with taking over the bed and breakfast there?
Well, the county has just had ties to the food bank forever. Several people that are on the commissioners have been former board chairs of the food bank, and just lots of volunteerism and all the things the food bank does. We just have great relationships with the county managers and the county commissioners. And, just in talking about it and them knowing a little bit about what we do, Dudley Watts actually said, hey, would this be a good fit for Providence maybe to consider helping us out with that? Because, he said, it's really not a good fit for us. We do a lot of things really well, but food and beverage operations is not necessarily one of them. And I gave it some thought, and we talked about it a little more, and then, didn't really think about it for a few months. And then COVID hit, and things had to change kind of rapidly. They became a little more needing to make a change, and we became a little bit more open to making a move, and those two things kind of collided, and we decided it would be a good move for us, and the county wanted to do it. So one thing led to another, and November 1st of last year, we took over.
Well, it's a great experience. I spent Christmas out there. I loved it so much. I came back for the New Year holiday, and I think I've been back one or two times since then. And if you're a resident of Forsyth County, if you live here in our backyard, it is a great staycation. So if you're just looking for something to do on the weekend, you just want a change of environment, head out to the Manor House at Tanglewood. It's a bed and breakfast, great food, great experience, and you can do so and do it knowing that you're supporting one of our local nonprofits through their social enterprise, which is also great. So you've got a new class coming up for Providence on June 1st. You spoke about COVID. Has that what kind of impact has COVID had on your ability to recruit people for your culinary training?
Well, it's made it really, really tricky. We have had to pull out all of our best practices and invent some new ones in order to get the word out to people that are really interested. A lot of people that are either laid off or maybe haven't been in the workforce for a while, or our traditional client base, are just hesitant. There's a lot of hesitance to come back to work from people for a variety of reasons. And therefore that hesitance translates right over to the thought of getting training to get into work. So it's really kind of a little tricky to convince people that it's a good move for them. You would think that during this pause, when a lot of people aren't working, it's a great time to retool and get education. And that's traditionally what happens during recessions and things of that nature. But this COVID pandemic has been like in any other thing we've ever seen, as far as how it affects people and the way they think about work and the way they think about taking care of their families. And it's going to be very interesting to see what the next 18 to 24 months bring. We are seeing people sluggishly starting to come out of it. This last class was a little bit easier to recruit for, the one that started just a couple weeks ago. And we're hopeful that the June class really fills up quickly. Summer is usually a hot spot for us because people are, have a little more flexibility in the summer. So we're really hoping that we can fill this class.
What can someone expect to pay? What would be a reasonable amount in terms of tuition and cost if I wanted to go through the culinary program?
Well, it's at its most expensive, it's very cheap, and usually it's free. Our goal is it is a nonprofit, and our goal is to anyone who has a barrier, financial or otherwise, to coming to a class like ours. We want them to never have to dig deep to where it hurts in order to come. So we have a variety of scholarship options that are available to most folks. We work closely with Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina through their NC Works program, and then we also work closely with Forsyth Tech. There's a lot of scholarship opportunities through both of those organizations. And then we have an internal scholarship for anybody that may not qualify for one of those. So it's usually free to come to this program. If occasionally we get someone who's a self-pay that just really wants to learn more about what we do, or they have the means and they just want to learn a little bit more about culinary, then the cost to them is $390. So that covers 13 weeks of education, and it covers meals, books, supplies, everything.
Yeah, so it's very affordable. And, for my audience, I would encourage you that you support Providence. I mean, you heard Chef talk a lot about some of this training is actually free. to the end user. I mean, so they're providing a really valuable role here in our community. And they also host a lot of events. They're coming off their Empty Bowls event that they just had last week. So when you see those types of fundraising opportunities that support Second Harvest, support those fundraisers, because they also support Providence and the work that Chef Bacon is doing. Staffing is like the biggest issue right now amongst restaurants. I get a dozen calls a day. You and I both know a lot of restaurant owners around town. I know I can't go inside of a restaurant without someone asking, "Do you know somebody?" or "Can you send me a cook?" or what have you. It's causing a lot of pressure on the industry. I mean, to the degree where I'm now starting to see certain restaurants that are saying they can't open certain portions of the week. I've heard about another restaurant over in Greensboro that actually shut down altogether. It's a mom and pop restaurant. They can't find cooks to come in and cook the food. Chef, what can we expect going forward? I mean, how long should owners be prepared to endure the staffing shortage?
Well, that is the magic question, Algenon. And I am thinking that we are going to be end of August before we really see any material relief. I think it'll trickle in a little bit during the summer, but as long as the extra $300 for unemployment is out there, that means that an average person has to make $14.50 an hour or more in order to make more money by working than they do by not working. And there's just entry-level folks in food service usually make below that, slightly below that, or even significantly below that. So that means the majority of our workforce in food service will make more sitting at home than they do by coming to work. Now, we all know that unemployment benefits can't last forever, even during COVID. So hopefully people will begin to plan ahead. They'll get sick of being at home, and they'll say, hey, now's the time during the summer to get acclimated so I'm established someplace before it gets real competitive in the fall. But I don't think it's going to be totally back to fairly normal demand levels until September.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I've been telling people, post summer you'll start to see some loosening. But Chef, I'm also concerned about a different component. You and I both know how tough and grueling the restaurant industry is. You're interacting with the public on a daily basis. That can be very exhausting over time and stressful. You and I have had offline conversations about the amount of substance abuse that occurs within the food and beverage industry as it relates to this stress and anxiety. How many of these people maybe just have left the industry permanently? They just don't want to be in the restaurant business any longer.
Well, I am very curious about that as well. I think it is a significant number. I don't know of anybody that has compiled any statistics that are reliable on that yet, but I have heard numbers as high as 20% of workers have left the industry entirely. And if that's true, then we're facing a labor shortage for a long, long time. It'll take many years to recoup a 20% loss of workforce.
Yeah, and it just feels like that is some degree that feels like some of that's happened. I think there's a combination of some people last year who, they got out and they said, okay, I'm not coming back, I'm going permanently. I also think that there's this element going on. You've got Amazon over in Kernersville now. They're paying $15 an hour plus benefits for you to come work in a warehouse. And that's great. And I think that's great for workers. And I can't blame someone for saying, hey, I'd rather go do that than go be in the dish pit, on a Friday night, making $10 an hour or potentially even less. So I do think there's some structural issues within our food and beverage industry that we got to continue to pay close attention to and navigate beyond. And so for my audience that's listening to this conversation, just know that your favorite restaurant isn't quite out the woods yet. We still got some obstacles we got to work over. Just a couple other questions before I let you go, Chef. Some of the other work that I know you do here locally, you try to support some of the existing chefs through the American Culinary Federation. Our mutual friend, Chef Tim Grandinetti, just got appointed president of the local chapter. Real quick, just tell my audience a little bit about ACF and some of the work y'all are doing here in the backyard that many people may not even know about.
Well, sure. I mean, the American Culinary Federation is an incredible organization. It is the oldest, largest, and most prestigious chefs association in the nation. And then our local chapter has a storied history within the ACF structure. As a matter of fact, Don McMillan, who you just mentioned and who was on your, I think your previous podcast, he is one of the founders of the ACF Triad chapter and one of my long-term mentors. So our our chapter in the ACF in general really focus on education, certification, and accreditation. So we're helping chefs to get the credentials that they need, the certification that helps them really advance upon a career track, not just get a job, but advance upon a career track with credentials that are recognized globally. So if you're a certified executive chef and you tell somebody that in France or Belgium or Russia or Florida, they all know what that means. They know that, there's this 100-year-old organization has certified your skills and have put those letters by your name. And then all of our educational institutes across the country that are full 2-year accredited institutions get their accreditation from the American Culinary Federation. And many of our chefs in this chapter are instrumental in that process. As a matter of fact, the program at Guilford Tech GTCC, that culinary program is an ACF accredited program, and many of those instructors help out by going around to other programs and helping them to achieve their programmatic accreditation. And then, of course, little smaller things like competitions and awards like Chef of the Year, events and fundraisers, and then the Chef and the Child Foundation, where we help to educate the public about the importance of childhood nutrition and fighting childhood hunger. So there's a lot of pies that the ACF has their fingers in, and all of them worthy stuff.
Well, for my audience, anyone out there that may be a chef or an aspiring chef, go check out ACF. I was honored to attend a Jack Daniel's dinner they had. I learned a lot about Jack Daniel's. I've always loved to drink Jack Daniel's, but I didn't know the history and the whole context around it. So that was fun. And then I did get to meet some really cool culinary professionals here in our backyard at that dinner. Last question, Chef. Chef Don McMillan, he when we had him on the show, he talked a lot about how delivery and the food trucks and so many other options are coming in. I know you work and you interact with a lot of chefs. I know chefs like to be so creative, and you guys are so innovative. What's your advice to chefs in these changing times right now? I mean, more and more people are migrating to DoorDash and Uber Eats and doing takeout. And I mean, are we starting to see the end of fine dining? I mean, where are we with fine dining these days?
Well, I wish I could look into the future and tell you, but the industry goes through these corrections every so often. And pre-COVID, if you remember, there was a labor shortage before COVID, and it was tough, and that was caused largely by that people go out to eat a whole lot. And I think that part of the COVID phenomena has pointed out that maybe there was a little too much of that going on, and people are finding new ways, whether it's grab and go, home meal replacement type options at grocery stores all over the place, or whether it's all of those meal delivery services. I think that phenomena is here to stay. I don't necessarily think it's going to take over fine dining or any other segment of the industry, but I do think that there is a healthy correction going on where it will mean that only the best of the best and the better restaurants really are able to survive and thrive. And overall, if you take the long view, that's actually healthy, but it certainly doesn't help right now when we're all super stressed. The emotional turmoil of going through this is really high in kitchens right now. I'm really worried about the mental health of our profession, and all the people that are going through this stress and anxiety over the staffing situation and everything else surrounding COVID. But I think in the long run, this will be a healthy thing that'll make our industry stronger, but that could be 2 or even 3 years down the road. But I don't think those delivery services or those new ways of eating are going anywhere anytime soon. So they will bite into the fine dining segment a little bit and some other segments, but they'll never eliminate it because there's just a huge demand. The Food Network and all these other channels and all these publications and all this interest in everything food, right down to your blog and your Facebook page, just proves how interested people are in everything food related. So it's not going anywhere, but it may reduce a little bit over the short term.
Well, Chef, I thank you for being here. To my audience, you just got through listening to Chef Jeff Bacon, and that is his real last name. That's not a stage name. Chef Bacon is over at Providence through Second Harvest Food Bank, but he's really everywhere. I mean, you cannot go into a restaurant in our region or our community and someone not know Chef Jeff Bacon. And so I'm so pleased and honored that I got a chance to introduce you to him on the Eat, Drink, Triad podcast. Again, make sure you go subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram. If you're not a member of the Eat, Drink, Triad group on Facebook, it's a great resource to keep up with all the great food options that are happening here in the region. And again, this podcast didn't cost you anything, but I do need a favor. I need you to share it with someone. I need you to tell someone else about it. Make sure other people know about this great content that you've actually been able to receive. And finally, I do have an op-ed. We talked about the labor shortages on the podcast today. I do have an op-ed in Yes Weekly, talking a little bit more deeply about what's going on with the labor shortages in our industry. So hop over to Yes Weekly and read that in your leisure. And until next time, stay locked in.